So yeah, this is FieldLark. I guess to begin, hi everybody, I'm John. I work for Advancing Eco Agriculture. I'm our communications manager. So I do a lot of different things, wear a lot of hats, including work on FieldLark, not from the technical side. Um, I'm not a tech person, but from the sort of user experience, product management kind of thing. Um, Also joining us here is Dave Rumpke, who just popped in. He's our head of IT, and he'll be here hanging out. He actually knows what's happening underneath the hood of FieldLark. So if there's more technical questions that you guys have, he'll be able to answer those. Um, but yeah, curious for the folks in the room, real quick, at the start here. If anyone wants to share, like, if you've used FieldLark before, or if you've used any other AI, LLM chatbot tools like Claude or ChatGPT, what's your sort of degree of familiarity with them, just so I kind of know where people are at.
Yeah, I can start off, John, and then maybe one or two other people can chime in. But I've used FieldLark for a variety of different things. I've been really impressed with its ability to read soil test um, and those kind of things, especially. I spent a while trying to look through some resources I had to make some updates to how I was fertilizing and applying stuff to our hay fields this year, and figured out what I thought was a good plan and then put it in FieldLark afterwards after working through a bunch of different resources that I trusted. And it gave basically the exact same thing that I'd come up with. So I probably could have saved myself a lot of time, but
Mhm.
um, just the ability to put in soil tests and explain your exact situation and needs, and then have FieldLark provide stuff like nutrient recommendations, but specifically what types of fertilizer to be using and other soil amendments that can increase, nutrient uptake. That's been very helpful, and I'm sure that's just scratching the surface on how it can be used.
Mhm.
But then also been impressed just generally being able to put in different locations in North Carolina and it having a baseline for what those soil types may be like and climate and that kind of thing is also very helpful because it can be specific to your area.
Definitely. Cool. Thanks, Ben. Anyone else want to share if you've used FieldLark, if you've used other AI tools at all? Or if you're newbies, that's useful information too. So I know where to begin.
I'll speak up. My name's Al Avery. I'm a independent agricultural consultant, southeastern part of North Carolina. So yeah, I've got a co-pilot subscription. I'll run samples through that, just kind of looking at nutrient balance and ratios, kind of in comparison to Mulder's chart.
Awesome. Thanks, Al.
Hey, this is Matt Waters. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yep.
I I've been using FieldLark some, to do some crop plans, just kind of see what it recommends. Earlier in the year, we're saying, hey, I fed it some soil tests and cover crop analysis, and said, what do you come up with? And um, then ran it by your guy that works with me some, and uh, it it offered a pretty Cadillac program. Pretty expensive program.
Yeah.
It didn't really make sense I mean, it might have made sense agronomically, but didn't make sense economically.
hmm
But I use it a lot for the nutrient stuff, and then I'm using Chat GPT to kind of help scrub chemical labels, herbicides, and stuff like that. Okay, hey, what are my options for layering in residuals in this crop or something like that? Because FieldLark doesn't do any of that, but Yeah, I'm using AI a little bit.
Cool. Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll get started here. And feel free to raise your hand with the little raise your hand feature in Zoom at any point to ask questions or jump in. This could be a pretty interactive thing here. Let me start out by saying sort of what makes FieldLark distinct or different from other chatbot tools like ChatGPT or things like that. There's two main big picture categories. One is the data that it's been trained on. So we trained it on a whole, kind of the whole library of resources that have been important to us at AEA. So that's a ton of, scientific journal articles, books, even more obscure things like interviews, a lot of internal data, all sorts of stuff. So that's sort of the added layer of training data that it's been trained on. And the other thing is the sort of framework of how it thinks and how it's sort of been programmed to think. And it's been programmed with like ecological principles and things like that as sort of the framework for which it makes its decisions. Um, so it's really interesting. We didn't train it or program it on any sort of like category or buzzword. So it's not like regenerative. We didn't actually say be regenerative or be organic or anything like that. But based on these sort of ecological principles, that just arose organically. So like it will discourage anhydrous ammonia, for instance. We didn't say a thing about anhydrous ammonia in its training. But it sort of by following these principles, it realizes the detriment that can have to soil. And so it discourages that. So those are kind of the two big differentiators. Um, so this here on my screen, you can see this is the FieldLark screen. It's pretty straightforward. There's a chat bar. You can type in your question. Um, a few best practices. This is true for any large language model AI tool, and it's also true for FieldLark. You want to give it as much context as you can. Like Ben was saying at the beginning, it really thrives if you tell it your exact location, your historical practices, um, your when in the season it is, what the weather's been like the last week, all this stuff. The more context you give it, the more it will be able to give a more specific response instead of just some vague general thing. And the other thing is it really thrives on data. Again, like Ben was saying, he was uploading soil tests and things like that. I think that's a big way that these tools can, um, supplement the human farmer or the human agronomist is by the ability to process and crunch really large amounts of data really quickly. Um, so the more data you can give it, the better. And that can be, yeah, soil tests, sap tests, tissue tests, anything like that. Crop data, whatever you've got, it will be able to process that. Historical applications, anything like that. So let me give you a quick example of sort of what giving it context looks like. So I could ask, you know, um, it's helpful with pests too. So I could ask something like this: how can I control plum curculio in apples? That's a really general question, and it'll give you a pretty general response. But if I modify that to something like this, which gives a whole lot more context. So I'm growing 10 acres of apples in Middlefield, Ohio, Zone 6A, plum curculio pressure. I want to reduce sprays long term. So you're sort of giving it a goal, a framework. Um, I ask here sort of the root causes of the plum curculio pressure, and then I ask it for um, um, specific actions to take, and then I've uploaded my soil and sap tests. So I'm giving it the data too, so to work on. So this prompt here is going to give it a whole lot more context and be able to answer better. And I can actually ask it this question if I find a soil test to give it. Let's see what it says. So Okay, so upload here. I've got a CSV file of my soil tests, and let's see what it says. Takes a minute. Cool. My internet's kind of slow today, so it's going slow. So it's showing me the root cause. It's giving me some short-term fixes. That's giving me some long-term solutions. All that's just from that one question. Um, and you can see it's finding some pretty specific things in my soil test, critically low calcium, high aluminum. It's recommending some foliars, pointing out something not to do, and then giving me some kind of long-term solutions, including soil calcium, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just an example of the kind of context you should give it when you're starting, because it gives you a lot more specific things to do. If I hadn't uploaded my soil test, it wouldn't have known about the calcium, um, etc. So yeah, so I can give some more examples of ways to give it context here, and also maybe get y'all thinking about the kind of ways that you can use it. So I'll just copy in some sort of example prompts that people have used with great success, so you can see the kinds of things it can do here. So this one, here's a prompt. I want to improve long-term soil performance, not just this season's yield. I've attached my soil test. And then you can give it some more specifics, your crop that you're growing, any kind of known problems that you have that you're looking to fix, and then ask it really specific questions from that. What are the top limiting factors in the soil? What's the most cost-effective sequence of amendments? There's someone, I forget who said it, but pointed out that the cost of the programs it recommends isn't always spot on. So definitely that's something to double check, or if you can prompt it from the beginning, say my budget is $100 an acre or whatever, and just give it that context too.
Hey,
So yeah,
hey, John, can I interrupt real quick?
yeah, Dave, yeah,
Yeah, so I was just going to say that same thing, right? Giving it, giving your cost as a criteria or a constraint within your information, that's going to be hugely beneficial in asking for something to make sure it's just not recommending the premium, because yep, it's going to recommend the premium because it is answering truly from an ecological standpoint, right? It's not going to be looking at what would be best necessarily from a fiscal responsibility kind of standpoint. Um, we are looking to bring that in more. The reality is the tool is built and it's actually part of a larger ecosystem that we're considering rolling out to people later. So it's how do we intertwine some of that stuff and give some of its other thinking into this tool. So that would certainly be very beneficial. And the other thing I would comment on is remember that when you start a chat, as with any of the AI tools, right, anything that you ask in that same chat is kept in context of the previous answer, the previous question and previous answer. So if John were to put in the prompt that he was working on right now, it would first look at it in context of the question and answer already provided, and then take this as kind of additional information. So if you
mhm.
wanted to start discussing a different crop, you would probably want to tell it to give you a new chat going in. And then I did see somebody ping in the hey,
Al
Al.
has a
Al had a
question.
question.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving. Took me a second to get my mic back on. You hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you, Al. Yeah.
So I assume, like most other models, if I talk to it and say, "Hey, I'm in southeastern North Carolina. These are some of the parameters." Will the next time I come back, will it remember those things, or would I need to repeat some of that at the beginning of the prompt?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a few ways to do that. So either as Dave was just saying, if you talk in the same chat, and let me just show you what it looks like on the screen here. So if I click these three dots here, I can see my whole chat history. So if the first question you've asked, or if a previous question you've asked gives that context, and then you're in the same chat, it will have that context. There's another thing you can do. This is a really helpful tool of FieldLark that I'll jump into right now, which is projects. So right here, there's this project screen. And these are basically, you can add any number of projects here. So I've just made some examples, but you could add a project. You can call it, the West Hayfield or whatever. You can use people use this for different blocks or different fields, or if they're a consultant, different farms you're working on. So this could be like Joe's place or whatever, just to help you remember. But basically what this is then you can upload files and they'll all reference this project. So this would be mostly for data files. You could have all the historical soil tests or all the historical sap tests from this field or this farm there. You could upload field observations or scouting records, anything like that, logs of applications, fertilizer records, anything like that. You can upload those to any chat, but if you upload them into a project, they'll be referenced anytime you're working in that project. So you can see, I've actually got one that has some files in it, West Orchard here. You can see when I'm on West Orchard now on my chat, there's this little icon down here, blue, that says West Orchard. So now in this chat's going to reference all those files that are in this project, and you can upload as many as you want. So I guess that's more specific than what you were asking about, which was sort of the general location, etc. Another thing people do, this is sort of true again with any AI, kind of a best practice, but you can have like a standard prompt that you have to copy paste into the beginning of a chat. So I'll start a new chat here. So you could just copy something in. I made an example here, but it could be something simple. I'm an agronomic advisor, North Carolina, Zone A, 8A. You could talk about your goals, etc. And then at the beginning of that chat, it will use that as reference. So there's a few ways to go about that. I hope that answered your question, Al.
Yeah, that's a great feature. So like probably what I would do would be put in a prompt that I would cut and paste each time that would say stick to strict scientific data, not consensus science type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would have to refer to something that has scientific data actually collected and maybe complete random block design, not opinion, not consensus science.
Yep. Yeah. So you could put things like that in this prompt. You could even put things about like tone or style, like please speak to me, really directly and concisely, or, talk to me in a pirate voice or whatever you want to say, and it will follow that. Dave, is everything I said accurate? Is there anything to add on the sort of initial prompts and context setting?
No, that's exactly what I would have mentioned is really kind of targeting in on the projects as well, because people are definitely finding that super useful and relying on that heavily, especially when they want to be able to recall not just the prompt, but also the file upload side as well. So definitely what I would have hit.
Perfect. Um, so yeah, so some other things that it can really the sky's the limit with your creativity of what it can do, as long as you keep giving it context and data. It can design like cover crop strategies for you. It can design fertilizer protocol, foliar spray protocol, Um, it can help sort of diagnose pest problems and root causes of pest problems, all sorts of things like that. Um, a few other best practices to if it's something that's pretty high stakes, um, ask it a lot of follow-up questions. Make sure you ask it to sort of review what it's told you and confirm that it's accurate. Dive into some of the details. You can really challenge it and question it, and it will. It's not these tools are not algorithmic, so if you ask the same question multiple times, it might sort of flow and vary and give you different answers. So to hone in on something kind of really specific, ask follow-up questions, ask it to verify what it's told you. Really, really push it and make sure that it's giving you something that it has faith and trust in. Um, you can also ask it for advice. You could ask it like, what's a better way to ask you this question? Or how would you start addressing this problem? Or here are my goals. What can you help me with? And if it gives some pretty interesting answers if you sort of probe into it on the meta level like that, and can kind of help you both use it better, but also kind of frame how you use it, or get a better idea of how it can help with your goals, what sort of things it can help you with. Um, Let me just show a few more of the features, and then we can see if people have questions. So again, the chat history is here, so you can ask it all sorts of random things. Uh, you can go back, and like Dave was saying, if you go into a previous chat, all of a sudden now you're using all the context from this previous chat. Um, so um, so you can keep talking in a previous chat, even if it was, months ago. Um, it speaks any language. I was testing this out. I think I was talking to it in, I can't remember what this language is. Anyways, the document upload thing is really helpful. So in a chat, if you click upload here, you can upload any files. So I could upload my soil test to this chat and say, please recommend the soil tests. And then that's specific to the chat, but like we were saying, if you want to sort of save those files to refer to frequently, you can upload those to a project. And if we go into the project here, we can click upload files and select whatever files you want to upload here. It also, you can see here, it's made by AEA. We have it recommend AEA products. That's partly because we have the most data on how they work, and partly because we think they're the best. But I actually learned recently from Dave that that's like the very last layer of logic added on. So if you don't want to use AEA products or whatever, you can just ask it not to refer those to you, and stripping off that layer of logic doesn't affect anything in its sort of core functioning. So if you just ask it, please don't recommend AEA products, you won't get these specific product recommendations. That annoys some people if they don't use our stuff, or if they think it's salesy. All you have to do is ask to make it not do that. It's trained by default not to recommend any specific products. So it would, in that case, sort of give you general recommendations and sort of, or like for more generic products. I'm seeing Linda's asking, can I write a nutrient management plan for a hog lagoon closure? Let's ask. I'll start a new chat. Linda, if you could either turn on your mic or type in the chat a little more context about the hog lagoon closure, either the sort of size or volume, or if you have any sort of problems with it, or if you have any sort of goals. And we'll just kind of put it to the test here.
Okay, I'd have to pull out the file to get all that information on hand. But basically, I was just curious about the extent of this program's capabilities. So, we would have to upload, I'm sure, soil tests for each of the different tracks that farmers have contributed to this closure. The farmers who will receive the effluent. And I do have, the volume and the um, nutrient analysis of the two different lagoons. And, so I'd have to upload all that, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Um,
have all that information here in front of me right now.
okay, let's just see what it says if I just ask it this. And yeah, no, totally get it. And also yeah, if it'll give a lot more specific response if you uploaded data, but we'll just see what it thinks of its own capabilities. I haven't actually used it to write nutrient
What
plans
what
for
it'll
hog
likely
lagoons.
do is come back with some pretty superficial recommendations, and it will probably at the end ask you some very specific questions. Hey, basically telling you, hey, here's if you ask me this, I could help you more.
Yeah, so here's what it's saying. Um,
Massive
um,
undertaking. Yes, it feels like a massive undertaking.
so it's sort of recommending some tests to take. You might already have these, you probably have these. It's
Uh-huh.
recommending
Okay, great.
some math and application rates, um,
Uh-huh.
saying that you might massively overapply, or saying phosphorus might be your limiting factor. It's giving you an application strategy, and then it's talking about biological digestion. So what Dave's saying, again, pretty high level. But this is definitely something that has the capability for, and I think if you gave it the data you have, as much data as you have, it would give you something really specific, really
Yeah,
specific
and
recommendations.
and just as a way of example, this would be a really good example where you could start with a question like this. Now, when it comes back with these recommendations, you could actually just ask a follow-up question, say, "Oh, I have the test for this as you recommended, and here's what it is," and then upload that file, and it would tailor the rest of the results back from that way. So
Hmm.
that's a good example of where you might start with one question, but you can answer back uh, to maintain the context and kind of drive it a little deeper and make it a little more specific without front loading all of the context and specificity right up front. Because a lot of times when you're asking it, you don't really have that.
Hmm. So like, yeah, so in this case, if this were, I'm in this chat now, so it has the context of the Hog Lagoon, I could go ahead and upload files, um, and it would keep the context and build off of what we've been talking about previously. Um,
And it's nice that it kind of guides you through how to do it as well.
yeah, it's pretty good. It's good at the specifics with data and stuff, but it's also like pretty good at the high level, um, concepts, strategy, philosophy, the reasons for doing things. It's really quite good at that. That's sort of
Mhm.
what it's trained to do, is to approach things from these
Mhm.
kind of first principle standpoints, from these ecological principles, and so it really gets that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And that ties back to, as John introduced it earlier, the way we have it specifically trained in the order in which we wanted it to do things, right? We really start with a lot of agronomic principles, a lot of cultural relevant practices, and then we layered in the data at a later point in it to help it drive to detailed and specifics. But we definitely started with some pretty good baseline knowledge that's been tried and true.
Yeah, John, that was a pretty
Okay. Um,
North Carolina specific question for you there on the hog
Good,
lagoon
good,
closure.
good. Yeah, let's get specific.
yeah.
Um,
Um, but yeah,
yeah.
I'd like at the end how it says reclaiming the lagoon footprint too. It's thinking through every single step all the way to how do you fix the hole in the ground. So that is kind of cool. Um, this question made me think, do you know if people are using this like at the beginning of, well, maybe even starting before the growing season, but trying to get it to give them a soil and plant tissue analysis program, to kind of monitor things throughout the growing season. Like if someone has the goal of reducing in-season nitrogen application on corn, could they give it specifics and then it come back with a plan for them to test and see, how to really understand what change in the nitrogen rates are doing? Just as an example, I'm sure there's a lot of things you could do. with that.
Definitely. Yeah, it can definitely do that. Um, and in that case, probably providing it with sort of what your historical application rates are. So sort of the application data, it would be able to go on that and definitely make some pretty good recommendations, both for what you should be testing, and when and what points in the season to test, um, and also sort of what you should be targeting as the kind of highest potential things to be reducing. Yeah, I can definitely do
Yeah.
that. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Luis, I missed your question from a bit ago. Does it give recommendations with soil biology with application rates? Yeah, definitely. You can see right here, actually up on the screen, Centera. Again, this is the AEA product, but it's recommending it here at a pound per acre. You can ask it not to recommend AEA products. And it's pretty good with biology. I was chatting with a guy in Japan, actually, who was having problems with his compost tea. And it sort of fixed his compost tea recipe for him. His problem was actually aeration. He needed a much bigger air pump. And so it's not just products, but also even kind of homemade things like that. It can deal with. Um, and yeah, biology is one of its strong suits, I would say.
Yeah, it can go back and offer biologic elements, nutrients, specific nutrients, specific microbes. It can go back and do that. The one thing it will not do, and it's by design, will offer anyone else's product as a recommendation. Um, Not that we don't like our competition, but we also don't endorse them, right? What we set out to do is really make sure this is absolutely regenerative by nature. And by really constricting it to say no product recommendations at all, we can make sure that we keep those things out that we would not personally recommend. And then we layered our products back in, and we are working with and talking to some other companies that we have partnered with and that we trust and respect. Eventually, we'll have a little fuller list. It's not all AA products, but that's why you're not seeing those in there. As John mentioned, right? We never told it it's a regenerative tool, but it has learned by what we don't allow it to do that that's the kind of recommendation it's supposed to be providing. So,
Al, I'm seeing you have a question. Go for it, Al.
Yeah, and you may want to answer this toward the end. Um, so IT person on retainer was in the office last week. My bookkeeper slash daughter said we've got to cut some expenses. However, a tool like this she would probably be interested in because she had me over the weekend planting some leftover seed from a 29 mixed plot Ben knows about with warm season covers into our Bermuda grass pastures and fescue pastures for the horses. So one of the horses is dealing with a little bit of laminitis. And I assume, there's probably answers that she could have gotten from that, but could a subscription reside on my server at my office to where other employees would have access to it, or would it have to be each individual within my business have to have a subscription?
That's a good question.
so, it is designed for each person to have their own unique subscription. Um, that's not to say you as you're right, as a particular company or entity. And I know for a fact we do have some of our growers that use our products heavily that they have a subscription for it as well. And they might have, they have a single subscription and they just share the login credentials and stuff with two or three of their key people on their staff, and they just handle it that way. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but the design of the system to create all of the unique characteristics is absolutely for each person to have their own login and stuff. And as more and more people from the same kind of domain or the same team start to come on, we try to incite it with some discounting, kind of similar to the relationship we're forming here.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And
Maybe a company like mine, maybe it cost a little bit more, but
Mhm.
maybe not as much as if I had 6 subscriptions I had to pay for, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, John or David, now might be a good time to talk about the subscription option. So you can put in questions for free to try out FieldLark, I believe, but
Mhm.
if you start using it, you'll pretty quickly run out of free questions, or at least I did. So
Yeah.
I think I have the basic level subscriptions that's like 70 questions a month or something like that. And then there is a larger unlimited subscription as well, correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
So a free user as a trial gets 30 questions total. And then after that, it needs a subscription. So yeah, you're exactly right, Ben. The sort of standard level gets 75 questions per month, and the pro level gets unlimited questions. And the NC Soil Health Coalition, being a nonprofit, gets our nonprofit group rates, which is 50% off the normal rates, normal costs. And that is for annual subscriptions, annual subscriptions only to get those group rates.
Yeah. Thank you guys for offering that. That's a
Mm-hmm.
really big discount. So we appreciate you offering that. And for everyone else on the call, um, the way that'll work is the Soil Health Coalition will pay for those subscriptions, and then we'll assign them to our members as people reimburse the coalition for the subscriptions. So I'll send out a notification about that. But if anyone would like to be a part of that, just put it in the chat or reach out, because we do want to get to a minimum of 10 subscriptions before we start that, just to make sure that everybody starts it and has their full year when they start their subscription. So, but if anyone would like a subscription or would like to participate in the discount through the Soil Health Coalition, like I said, reach out or put it in the chat here, and then I'll reach back out after this meeting.
And I will say, we've seen it uh, pay for itself really quickly. There's a market garden in North Carolina, Honey Tree Farm. They're awesome. They grow incredible produce. And they sent me a message on Instagram saying that 1 week of increased market sales from FieldLark. Uh, they uploaded a ton of soil tests, really grilled it, asked it a bunch of questions. Um, and 1 week of FieldLark increased sales from the market from FieldLark paid for FieldLark for 8 years. It's just with the return of the awesome chard and stuff that they're growing from changing their fertility program. So yeah, I think if you really grill it and use it well, yeah, it pays for itself pretty quickly. There's a couple more questions in the chat here. Jacoro, hello, says if you're preseason planting, can FieldArt go out and reference current and future weather forecasts? I actually don't know. Dave, do you know, can FieldArt reference weather forecasts?
It cannot. So it can get some very rudimentary weather forecasting type data. That is actually an enhancement that we have on the roadmap that we are looking to get to yet this summer, is to get it a good data source for weather forecasts, almanac type forecasts that is reliable and usable, and then also get it a weather array that it can access to get more current and near term forecasting as well, and have it kind of collate all of that data together to come back with some very poignant weather stuff. So I would actually answer, I don't think it does weather super well right now, but our plan is to get that in there and to really leverage that significantly because we really think that is one of the pressures that hits our community the hardest. Um, Another data source that we're trying to just find a good data source to feed in is pest and disease forecasting as well, right? Because as wetter seasons have more mold and mildews, drier seasons have, other types of diseases to be aware of and pest type pressures that don't come one versus the other. So we're looking for data sources to include those. And once we isolate the right data source that makes it meaningful and consistent, it'll just deploy out and become available.
Yeah, I know in North Carolina, David, one of the better sources here is the um, NC Climate Office. They've got weather stations around the state, and they publish all their data online for anyone to go and download. So I'm sure
Yeah.
other states have the same thing, but hopefully that can be incorporated somehow.
Yeah, and that may be the path we go because what we did find is just so you know, like we looked at NOAA first, so the national level, and it gets a little sketchy in their data, how readily available it becomes, but it does seem like a lot of the states are doing it much, much better. We were just kind of selfishly hoping from a maintenance standpoint we didn't have to go state by state, but it is starting to look like that's probably the path we're actually going to end up going.
Yeah, and every state's going to have a different data format and a different way of
Yep.
downloading data, I'm sure. But
Oh, of
yeah,
course.
in North Carolina, they do a pretty good job of monitoring the weather stations, making sure the sensors are accurate and all those kind of things. So it's pretty good data from them.
Cool. Excellent. Thanks. That's a good tip.
Stuart's got a question. Can you give a brief description of the consultant tools option? Yeah, so basically, Stuart, I think one of the best tools for you here is going to be this projects feature I was showing you earlier. So if you're a consultant and you're consulting on a number of different farms, uh, you can make a project for each one of those farms. Um, so I could add the Smith farm here, um, and then keep all the files and all your data distinct for that farm. So then you'll be able to stay organized. And when you select Smith Farm, your chat is going to reference all that data. Um, and you could even, if they're, you could have different projects for different blocks within the same farm or whatever, however it makes sense to you to organize it. That's going to be I think the kind of key tool for you here as far as you're using it to be effective there.
Yeah. Yeah, Stuart, I think you're talking about the drop down at the top, right? Where it says
Oh,
consult.
sorry,
Yeah,
consultant tools. This
that.
is this is in there's some stuff that here that's internal. This some of our AEA tools we use internally.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Stuart. Yeah, I messed up there.
Yeah.
So what you'll see as a FieldLark user is these first two FieldLark, and I won't show you what's behind the curtain here
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't want to
You're only
tangentize
seeing
you.
those consultant tools and analytics because John being an AA employee, he has access rights into the internal tools. But that does tie back to some of the things that we're trying to get incorporated into this model or offer people the option to have access to some of these other tools. So a lot of the consultant tools are a lot around context, right? You would go in there and you would put the kind of characteristics of a particular farm, right? You'll have a grower name, you'll have the farm, you'll have location, you'll have plot sizes, you'll have field maps, you'll have all of this stuff. And it takes kind of that context that you have to set in the chat bot as far as the farm itself, and you get to store it outside and then bring it in, right? So think about our consultants who go out and work with growers. Somebody mentioned earlier that they work with one of our agronomists. Well, they're using those other tools, and that's how we remember everything about you, what you purchased, what you put on, what you have upcoming. And when they use this tool, it leverages that data in our world, but it's because that other data already exists, but we did not put it just readily available into the FieldLark AI at this point. But that is something we're looking to do to kind of offer people the ability to have more of a farm management or Uh, Maybe soil health management is a better way to look at it, platform versus just the AI tool, because that's what our real vision is for it. Is that's how we want it to really drive and change regenerative agriculture across the board.
Y'all are off asking some great questions. Please pop it in the chat if you've got something on your mind, or if there's an example you want me to put in to just see how it would approach a question. I'm happy to do that too.
Um, I would just mention, John, since nobody asked it, but if you could click the little greater than sign up next to projects to go ahead and bring settings over
Oh yeah.
and then go to settings. So John has been using it in a general mode. And the reason we have this, we have it being very verbose and very scientific if you put it into detailed, right? You're seeing really solid answers here in the general, but I will assure you those answers would be more cumbersome, more detailed, and very much more dependent on data. Um, if you have it in the detailed model, it would look at things slightly differently. Where this becomes really important, you'll find one you like better, first of all. But second of all, if you are using it on some type of a remote device out in the field and you've got maybe a little bit of questionable cell coverage, which, tends to happen on occasion, flipping it over to general brings back shorter answers. So you might feel and see a bit of a response improvement if you're not looking for something super detailed. So that is one of those toggles that I think can add value to people. Not used a bunch, right? Once you figure out the one you like, you probably use it there mostly, but it's a switch you have in your toolbox if you need it. So.
John, could you give an example of the picture upload disease ID feature?
Yeah, yeah, I can. Let me see if I have a sample disease to upload.
And I'll take the question there from Al. So the ability, what you can do is you can copy your answers out. Down at the bottom is the ability to just copy and take it out, and then you can put it into whatever format you want, whether Word, or if you wanted to put it into Adobe to make it a PDF and make it editable. But what we offer out of the tool is just raw text. It just lets you be more flexible in where you want to use it and put it.
Um, yeah, let me just quick upload something here. Okay, so I'll start a new chat.
Just curious on how that
Yeah,
works and if there are any specifics on how to get the best results with pictures, like very detailed up close or more general field view or both, or best way to go about that and make it work.
yeah, let's see here. Um, it's weird. It's not letting me upload it. Um, yeah, so
Are you trying to take that from an iPhone and put it in?
it's a JPEG, which is
No,
see, maybe if I click add here.
it's a JPEG. It should go.
Oh, here it is. So yeah, okay. So I'll hit add. I just downloaded this picture from the internet because I couldn't find one easily. Um, so this basically, yeah, the two buttons, there are the buttons down here. The upload one, you can upload, that's for like more data things, your SAP tests, soil tests. You can upload PDFs, anything like that. This disease ID button is strictly a disease ID. So basically you just upload the photo and it will identify it. It actually got this right. This is apple scab. So then um I just downloaded a picture of apple scab. Um so then it kind of gives me it kind of tells me about it, understands the why, nutritional imbalance. oxidizing phenolics. Good stuff here. The kind of soil health of the life cycle, overwintering in leaves, and then some recommendations. Um, so this, and then I could ask follow-up questions in the chat here if I wanted to, and then long-term prevention. This is a pretty good answer, actually. Yeah. So, did that answer your question? I
Yeah, it
think,
did.
yeah, you can upload, I think with this, you can upload up to three and probably, yeah, more photos, improve the accuracy. So from different angles, maybe zoomed in, zoomed out, if you're wanting to get the most out of it. Um,
I'll share something with you. Y'all can invite me to be a partner one day if you want to, but I was just thinking while we're going through this, I've probably received about 5 pictures from field techs that are out scouting peanuts and cotton today while we've been on this call. So we use there are plenty of formats, but we use WhatsApp and create a group for the technicians each summer. A lot of them are college students studying agronomy, and they're hitting me and their manager all the time with pictures and questions, especially when they go through new training and they haven't seen it in the field yet. They've only seen pictures. They're uploading stuff to me and the manager constantly. And, is this the insect we're looking for? Is this a disease or not a disease? Is this herbicide injury or is this fertilizer burn injury? If you could couple with something like that, and then I could say, hey, I agree with FieldLark, it'd be really helpful in training them and keeping everybody educated. That
Mhm.
seems like a good concept.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So when I identify something and say that you're correct, that's Lygus plant bug adult, they all get the privilege of seeing the answer and the picture at the same time. Plus, we keep up with each other. They have their location turned on so I can see what farm they're on and that they're in the field. But it's a way for us to be safe, stay in touch, and share information simultaneously.
Hmm. Hmm.
Maybe a future consultant model could incorporate all that.
That would be cool.
That's a good
That would be
idea.
cool, like a kind of group chat group reference. Um, Couple more questions here. Luis, would FieldLark give recommendations based on biocontrols, like specific biological inoculant for specified precision applications against hard-bodied or soft-body pests? Um, so I think maybe if I'm understanding the question right, to refer back to Dave's answer, it won't recommend specific products except for AEA products, for the reasons Dave talked about before. Um,
But it
yeah,
will
Dave, you want to
talk
jump in?
about specific nutrients and things that you can do to target specific hard versus soft body pests.
Yeah. And it'll talk about, yeah, so it'll give it won't give necessarily specific product recommendations, but it could talk about, you can even see here on my screen, like I could ask it what specific soil biological communities are most effective at breaking down apple scab inoculum. So it'll tell you about, different species, and different nutrition. So it'll give you all the details you need, for that. Roger says, will precision information like yield maps, variable rate application history, etc., be helpful? Uh, Definitely, yeah. I think, yeah, the more precision information, the more data, any sort of data that is at all relevant, that would be really helpful for its understanding. And again, yeah, that's sort of one of these AI tools' greatest strengths is the ability to just handle this data that the human brain takes a lot longer time if it can handle it at all. So yeah, that's really helpful.
Well, if no one else has any questions, John and David, is there anything you feel like we left out that we need to try to cover today?
I don't think so. Not to my mind. I thought you all asked really good questions. I'm really excited that you all are so interested in this, and I think, yeah, I'm excited. I hope some of you try it out. Linda asked how to get the free trial. Just go on, just log on to FieldLark, and I can just show you here, and just create an account. And you'll by default be free, and you'll have so if you just go to get started, you can set your email and username, and you'll have 30 questions free to play around with. Um, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I do think one thing I would add, I don't think we talked about the chat history over there, but with that search at the top of the chat history, that's a new feature that we added a couple weeks ago. It will search for whatever keyword or phrase or whatever you put in there through all of your search history. So, right, if you do a single word and you have a couple thousand search histories in there, might not help you as much as you were hoping it would. But it does a great job of guiding you back to where you had that conversation. So if you knew you had a conversation specifically about Apple Scap, it can certainly narrow that down for you. So we really refined that search capabilities to try to make it a little more helpful as people have been using the tool more. So that was just one I thought I'd throw out there. It was what feedback from some users that had it. They were just saying, "Hey, it's getting really cumbersome to find what I'm looking for. Is there a way you could help us?" So, new ad brought to you by fellow users.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure it's just going to keep getting better and better, even though right now it's pretty good the way it is. So it's kind of hard to imagine going about stuff without using a tool like this now that it's available. So we appreciate you guys joining us and appreciate you doing the organizational discount for us as well. So, um, like I said, if anybody within the Soil Health Coalition is interested in that, we'll get that kicked off within the next week or so. And we'll reach out with some more information on how to get the 50% discount for FieldLark, but we'll get that started here very shortly.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for
Thanks,
having us.
everyone.
Thanks, John. Thanks, David.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.